Hi, my name is Chris Hart. I'm a cartoonist and the author of a bunch of books on how to draw cartoons, cartoon heroes, cartoon animals, manga, everything. I'm lucky enough, very fortunate to have sold 3.5 million copies domestically, and I'm in 20 languages, and I have you to thank for that. So this is for you. This is a character on, this is an original character. I'm going to show you how to do the musculature on the inside of a torso, because people have a lot of trouble with that, and you have to know the areas to exaggerate. And here is the book that is, I think, it's one of my books I'm very partial to, because I think it shows this dynamic and funny type of animated superhero. And it's called Draw the New Adventure Cartoons. Here's the bad guy, here's a reporter, here's another reporter, here's some superheroes. So let's take a look at creating the interior musculature of this type of a character. And we'll start off with a basic instruction so that we don't have to start just from scratch and take too long. Here is, let's show you where the parts are. This is the rib cage. Then look what's happening. The rib cage actually is high enough to go into the neck, or the neck actually invades the rib cage. Most people think the rib cage is below it, but it is not. These are the trapezius muscles, and they come in and wedge right here between the front deltoid and the rear deltoid. Deltoid's a shoulder, so that means that this one has to overlap it. And over here is this, it's called an acromion, which is that little bump at the edge of your shoulder, that little bone bump. What that really is an extension of the collarbone. That's that collarbone. It winds around, and here's the edge of it. But you don't see it that well because the muscle buries that collarbone. Now we're going to make these rounded because he's so muscular, the muscle's popping out over the collarbone. So straight down would be like this on the rib cage, but his pectoral muscles are so big that he's going to actually overlap that. So we're going to draw him on a curve this way. And the chest muscles angle downward. They're not square, they angle downward. We're going to add a little more space here between them to define it, because they're two different muscles. It's not just one muscle with a line. We're going to go off the rib cage here to give it a little bit more muscle. That, when you go off the outline, it really defines something. It really brings your attention to it. And we're going to stretch from inside this shoulder area. Nice big thick muscle to stretch inside here to create this part. This is the connector between the deltoid, which is the shoulder muscle again, and the arm. Here's the rear deltoid coming down this way. So it's like a teardrop look. Now here's the bicep that we all know about, so that's going to go into the elbow area. We all are familiar with the bicep, and here it is, this big, this weightlifter muscle. And we know the tricep, this muscle that sticks up here on the back of the arm, kind of bunches. But most people aren't aware that this is something called the brachialis. And it starts in the back of the deltoid here, and it goes into the front of the arm. So it's not just a bicep and a tricep. There's this kind of like buffer zone here, and the elbow, crook of the elbow here, this comes down and widens. This comes down and widens a little more sharply here because there's a bone at the interior of the elbow right here, so that's a little sharper. And then we bring this muscle from the back of the elbow forward, like so. You can give a little striation right here. And here is that deltoid again that we're defining, that cap. We call them melon caps, colloquially. We'll bring that bicep down here into the crook of the elbow. And again, we have a little bit of a sharper angle here going into the forearm, because here is the bone from the inner elbow. These muscles go straight from this position on in the forearm, and here we have that brachialis again, poking up on the inside. So we bring the ribs in here, the rib cage goes in here, sort of comes around and makes that, becomes the abdominal wall. And we bring this out here for the external oblique, which is that part everyone thinks is fat, but this is actually muscle. It's actually a muscle. So here is Notice there's a difference between the rib cage where that stops and back here. This is the latissimus dorsi. This is the back muscle that you can see past the rib cage. Bring it down, and again, external oblique here. The hips connect directly to that. Here's the part of a suit here. And now, instead of just going with a straight line again, a center line, it's going to have to be a contour line. So it goes like this, down to the belly button, which is the navel's halfway between the bottom of the rib cage and the top of the hips. Now, most people show a six-pack, as they call them, and that's basically 1, 2, 3 muscles. There is actually a fourth muscle here, which is not seen unless someone's like really muscular, but he is. So we'll put one here, and we'll put one here, and we'll put one at the belly button, and that will come down all the way here. This is the longest part of the abdominal wall, right here, all the way down. And so we'll articulate it. 1 bump, 2 bumps, 3 bumps, and 4. And again, we'll articulate it here. A little bit, bumping forward a little bit, and here, and here, and here. Same thing on this side. And now we will shade a little underneath it, because the light comes down here and hits the top of this group of muscles, but not the bottom. See how that looks? Now, one thing to be aware of is that these are angled slightly downward, like that. They're not straight across as I've just drawn them. They're angled slightly downward, and we can add that look here. Does it look more natural? Doesn't it look more natural? Now we have the last thing we're going to do is we're going to have the rib cage muscles, and they're short here, short little muscles here, and they interweave like so, and they're a little longer in the front as they follow the bones of the rib cage. So short ones back here, longer ones in front. And we can also shade those in a little bit, make it a little more pronounced. Let's also shade under the chest, add a little shadow above the sternum, and we will add a little bit of shading for trapezius muscle. And it can show a little bit for the collarbone if you like. And that is basically your guy. That is the anatomy for how to draw an animated style superhero. I hope that was helpful, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.